Abyssal Murmurs. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next horror stories. Story 1. The Haunting of the LA Airbnb. A chilling girls' trip story. This happened in May of 2021. My sister and I planned a last-minute 3-day, 2-night, all-girls trip to LA. We found an Airbnb that can host up to 9-10 people in the city of Azusa. We were all excited to go and planned all the things that we wanted to do. When we first arrived at the Airbnb, the neighborhood was nice and quiet. When we entered, the front door hallway leads to the living room. In between the front door hallway are 2 doorways. To the left leads to 2 rooms and 1 bathroom. To the right leads to a big study room. The host turned the study room into a bedroom that had 2 big bunk beds. Most of my nieces immediately chose the bunk bedroom, and the rest of the adults were left with the other 2 bedrooms. My mom and I were supposed to take the master bedroom, which was nearest to the front entrance, but when we both walked in, it gave off a weird vibe. I noticed that the room was colder than the rest, and the back of my hair stood up. I didn't tell my mom, and surprisingly, she didn't want to sleep in that room. She opted out to sleep in the living room. I also felt the same, and gave up the bedroom to one of my sister-in-laws and her daughter. My sister also wanted to sleep out in the living room with us. She also felt weird vibes around the house, and thought she ran into someone on the way out of the bathroom. On the first night, my mom slept on the leather couch, and I happened to find a foldable mattress in one of the closets and pulled it next to the couch. My sister took out her air mattress that she brought from home and placed it on my right side. I was basically sleeping in between them. When I lay on the foldable mattress, my feet was facing towards the TV. My head was facing towards the dining room area. To the left of my feet was the front door hallway. Throughout the night, I kept hearing the floors creak from the dining room area to the kitchen. I tossed and turned and eventually fell asleep around 3 in the morning. The next morning, I asked my mom if she heard anything last night, and she said she did. But she brushed it off, thinking that it was one of the kids getting up in the middle of the night to grab snacks or drinks. That morning, one of our nieces also said that the front door hallway's light was flickering during the middle of the night. We were trying to make sense of it and thought that it might just be an old house. We tried to keep our minds off from it and enjoyed our day exploring LA. On the second night, we headed to bed. My mom, my sister, and I still slept in the living room. We turned off the TV and left the dining/kitchen light on again. That night, I had a dream. I dreamed of seeing this lady in a white gown with her dark, medium-length hair covering her face. She slowly walked from the front door hallway to the living room TV. She was underneath the TV and was trying to turn it on. I was yelling at her to not turn the TV on, but she didn't care. She still tried to turn the TV on, and when she was able to turn it on, she turned her head towards me, and I kept yelling at her to turn it off and go away. This felt like it lasted for a good 3-4 minutes. I immediately woke up and saw the bright light emitting from the TV screen. I was shocked and looked around the room with my eyes. Nothing was there. I saw the remote control under the TV and woke my mom up. "Mom, did you turn the TV on?" I asked her. "No." "Did we leave it on?" My mom tiredly replied, "No. We turned it off before going to sleep." I turned over to my sister and woke her up and asked her the same thing, and she said she didn't turn it on. I got up and turned the TV off. Not that many hours later, I woke up to noises coming from the kitchen. I looked above me and saw my mom already sitting by the other couch and was just listening. I whispered, "Mom, what are you doing?" "I'm trying to see if I can catch the kids getting up in the middle of the night and scare them." I was like, "That ain't the kids. Right when we heard one of the cabinet doors roll open, my mom turned around the wall to see who was messing around in the kitchen, and to her surprise, no one was there. She got up and walked around the house, making sure everyone was asleep. When my mom returned, she told me everyone was asleep. I was like, "See, Mom, it's not the kids." We stayed up for a bit until the light was starting to break through the horizon. I was able to fall asleep just for a little while before everyone started to wake up. It was our third and last day at the Airbnb. We packed all of our things and cleaned up the house. When we were about to leave, I made sure to call everyone's names to go home and told whatever that belonged in the house to stay. Driving back home, I couldn't get that lady's image out of my head. I felt uneasy but tried to brush it off. The night when I got back home from the trip, I had another dream. I saw that lady again, but this time her hair wasn't in her face. She came into my bedroom and was talking to me. She told me that she was lost and couldn't find her family. She asked me if I could help her find them. I told her that I couldn't help her and told her to go back to wherever she came from. I kept telling her to go away. When I woke up, I felt bad, but I knew I couldn't do anything about it. I got out of bed and cleansed the house and went outside, cleansed myself, so whatever that was attached to me or followed me home to go away peacefully. After my first experience with the Airbnb, it made me hesitant to rent places for vacations. Story 2. The Old Lady by the Corner Street. So one night, in the summer of 2011, the wife and I had an argument. At the time, we lived with her parents till we can get a place of our own, and we did. She took off in the middle of the night and into the street. She walked a few blocks down, then later came back home to relieve the stress, I guess. After a few nights passed by, she started to feel the supernatural force around her. When she goes to sleep, and soon as she closed her eyes, she would feel the spirit come down the stairs. Then she would shake me and say, "She's coming." This went on for weeks. Every night, as soon as we're about to close our eyes and sleep, she'll say it's here, or it's coming. Then she'll feel the ghost peeking through the small cracks we have in our room. Days and nights went by. It got so bad to where as soon as she closes her eyes, the spirit would attack her. Spiritually, there were nights that I had to stay up and look after her. She'll wake up and cry in pain that it hurts a lot because of the attack that is happening in the spiritual world. There will be times where she's been sit on and couldn't move till I lightly elbow her. Afraid and know that she won't be able to move, she rests her hand onto my arms. She said, if I feel her lightly scratching me, then to bump her 'cause she's being sit on. Every night, I have to wake her up 'cause she couldn't move. Once I bumped her, she'll let out a big breath in fear. Then there will be times where it's like 2 to 3 a.m. and she would daze off with her eyes open and won't even hear me when I'm talking to her. She looks as if she was crazy, like she sees something and just kept on staring. She'll slowly turn and look at me, and then turns away and stares at what she was staring at. I can't do anything but to watch over her and make sure she's okay. I'm not letting it get to me either by scaring me, because my side of the family don't see those stuff. So I just man up and not let it see my weaknesses, even though I don't feel the ghost like my wife does. So finally, my wife's mom, mother-in-law, took my wife to see a shaman to see why is this ghost bothering her. The shaman said the old lady won't show her face. She kept looking away and covering her face because she's shy. The shaman asked, "What do you want, and why are you bothering her?" The old lady said the reason is because she saw my wife walking and crying past the corner where the old lady stands every night, and the old lady saw that my wife has a kind heart, which is the main reason why she followed her home. So the shaman did her thing and told the old lady to go away, and she did. Every time we drive past that corner, which is only a block away from her house, my wife has to hide herself in the car so the old lady won't see her, and to never speak of her ever again. That was the most terrified event that I have ever been in. Never did I once meet anyone that would get attacked like that in my life. Observing such occurrences in a person for the first time, it's certainly a tale to recount when we age. The message of this story is to never walk crying alone in the dark streets. If there's a wandering spirits nearby, it will follow you home, and it won't be pleasant. Hope you guys enjoy this story. Story 3. Haunted by Guilt. The ghosts that followed my coworker in the nursing home. I used to work in a nursing home when I was younger in graveyard shift. I used to be hella scared. Old people, plus nighttime. It also didn't help that coworkers from various shifts would share scary stories of that place with us. Supposedly, there is a female ghost that always wandered in the north wing close to the stairs. On the second floor, the last door of a certain hall always jiggles as if someone is trying to open it, even when no one was living in there. As months goes by, I got used to the place and the fear gradually went away. I befriended this girl that also worked the same shift. Occasionally, she'd said she feels weird or that something is following her. I'd just tell her to stop since I'm spooked. She always came to work tired and kept saying she feels like there's a heavy weight on her shoulders. I still didn't think anything of it. Graveyard shift is that hard. You could sleep for 10 hours after a graveyard shift and still feel like you didn't sleep at all. She is also a mother of 4 kids. Then came along this Hmong girl who started working on our shift. I guess to makes it easier to understand, I'll call the Hmong girl M.I. Tired Friend A. M and I became somewhat friends, and over the weeks, I learned that M is a shaman. She would tell me that she could see things here at work. Just dark things floating, but she can't see their faces. They're always hanging around in the halls, looking restless or confused. Damn, I hated her whenever she tells me that. Then, she dropped another bomb on me, telling me to keep it a secret from me. She told me that a lot of ghosts follows you around. Wherever she goes, in the workplace, the ghosts would followed. Other coworkers had the same problem, M also said. But E was the worst. M said she could see them as old people. I remembered she said one of the ghosts seemed like an old woman with perm hair and wearing a pink nightgown. The thing is, I tried not to believe M. My whole life, it seems, I always attracted compulsive liars. Lies for attention, to look special, or just for the sake of lying, really. I thought she was one of those, so I shrugged it off. This went on for a while, until finally M told E. He got really scared, looking like she was about to shit her pants. She demanded to know if they were all old people. M said, "It feels like most of them are." Afterwards, he asked me to go eat breakfast with her without M. He looked hella restless and panicky as we ate. Finally, she brought up the subject. She asked me, why are the ghosts following her, things like that. Then she leaned in to whisper, "Do you think it's because I beat them?" I was shocked to hear what she said and asked her to clarify. She assumed that the ghosts are our deceased patients, following her and mad because she had occasionally hit or punched them, something no one knew about. I didn't know what to do, but lectured her on abusing patients that we are supposed to care for, but she was more scared of them following her. Soon, she quit, and we just never talked about it again. Story 4. A final farewell. The night my sister's late MIL came to visit. So this happened a few years ago, and I have experienced a few paranormal stuff in my life. But this one freaked me out a little. A quick backstory to what led to an early morning experience. My oldest sisters, Maui, MIL, had passed away, and a few of my family members were driving out of state to attend. My older sister, May, was going to attend the funeral to support Maui because it was going to be a traditional Hmong funeral. We all know how stressful and exhausting it can be. Anyway, my younger sister, Nina, was going to babysit her 4 kids for the next 4 days. I couldn't go because I had to work, and I had school. I agreed to come over early Monday morning after I got off work, so Nina could drive the 2 older kids to school, and I would stay with the 2 younger kids until she got back. That was the plan. I got home from work around 2 a.m. and lost track of time studying when Nina texted me around 3:30 a.m. about when I was going to go over. I finished up what I was working on, packed my stuff, and headed over to May's house. I quietly entered the house, set my book bag on a chair in the dining room, grabbed a blanket, and was planning to crash on the couch because the kids were going to wake up in 3 hours. I left the living room light on because it felt a little too dark for me. I was exhausted, but just before I was going to lay down on the couch, I had an uneasy feeling that I was being watched. I looked straight into the darkness of the dining room that led through to the kitchen. I just kept looking into the darkness. I thought to myself, I'm just probably paranoid, and if there is a ghost/spirit, I don't have time for their games. I don't have time to deal with this paranoia because I barely have time to sleep. I laid down on the couch and checked the time. 4:03 crap, I have to sleep now. I'll just text Nina that I'm here and crashing in the living room because I didn't want to wake the kids. I set my alarm to 7 a.m. and then closed my eyes.
I was drifting away when suddenly I felt an overwhelming feeling come over me.
My heart started to race. Calm down and go to sleep. There it is again, that feeling. I opened my eyes and checked the time. 4:05 a.m. 2 freaking minutes. I decided to play some soothing, classical music to help me sleep. I checked my heart rate on my Apple Watch, 101 BPM. It's a little high, but I'm probably just overworked. Calm down and relax. I closed my eyes. There it is again. Why am I freaking out? I'm trying to think logically as to why my heart feels like it's racing. Paranoia? Exhaustion? No, I'm scared. Why am I scared? I have never been scared or had this type of feeling in this house, so why now? What made it worse was something kept telling me to open my eyes. I opened my eyes and saw a small angel statue my sister had placed on top of her fireplace. I said a little prayer and checked my heart rate, 105 BPM, still high. I closed my eyes and told myself to stop feeling scared. There is nothing to be afraid of, and remember that humans are scarier than spirits. Just listen to the music and go to sleep. I suddenly felt more uneasy than before. It felt crowded, like there was more than one person in the room. I feel like I'm being watched by many people, just standing around me. My conscience is telling me to open my eyes and that I'm not alone. Open your eyes. Open them. I quickly opened my eyes, and I felt so scared and kept looking around. I texted my sister, "Hey, why? But I'm really scared for some reason. It's only been a few minutes since I laid down, and I feel like something is watching me. I'm coming to sleep with you and the boys. I'll tell you about it later." I walked to the bedroom, closed the door, and squeezed myself onto the bed. I instantly felt calmer and relieved. I was knocked out cold. I woke up from my alarm and turned it off. My sister woke up too, and I had to tell her what I experienced. Somehow I felt the urge to whisper, because whatever I felt didn't leave yet. After I was done telling her, she looked at me with her eyes wide open. "I felt it too," she said. "What do you mean you felt it too?" I asked. So before the sun had set, one of the girls said she was scared because she felt as though someone was peeking through the window. I thought it may have been you, but it wasn't. I checked, and no one was near the house. She kept saying something was there. I freaked out, so I closed the curtains. Later that night, around 9 p.m., I was with Baby and his brother, 4, in the living room watching Pokemon, and I felt so scared all of a sudden. I kept looking into the darkness of the kitchen like someone was looking back. I made sure the doors and windows were locked, but somehow I was terrified. It's that kind of feeling like more than one person was looking back at you, I asked. Yeah, kind of crowded, but you know there's nothing there. I started to feel more scared all of a sudden. I didn't want to text you when you came. I didn't want to scare you, because I know you'll be too tired for that crap, she replied. I grabbed my phone and texted in the family group chat. "Hey, May, since when was your house creepy? Nina and I felt scared last night. It was weird. When are you guys coming home?"
I got a text a few seconds later and May replied,
"I'll tell you when I come home." What the heck? No freaking way are we all having this same uneasy, scared feeling. It turns out that May never felt scared in her home until the night before she left for the funeral. She was working out in the basement, and she felt scared like someone was watching her. She didn't tell anyone, and thought she was just being paranoid, and tried to play it off that maybe the stress was catching up with her. It wasn't until I said something that we connected that someone came to visit, because after that, we didn't have that kind of feeling. Years later, I haven't had that type of scared, uneasy feeling. I tried to logically play it off that it was my physical and mental exhaustion that made my body paranoid. Somehow that morning I had a sense that there was more than one person. Maybe it was my sister's MIL, coming to say her last goodbye along with whoever she was with. For those wondering why my sister's MIL would possibly come to say goodbye, Mai got married when I was 11, and I would visit almost every summer over the years until I graduated high school. My younger sister did too, as we helped Mai babysit her kids. You could say every time we saw her MIL, we would greet her and hug her. Mai took care of her MIL till the day her MIL died. Lastly, I don't know if this matters at all in this case, but her MIL was a shaman. Story 5. The Airbnb Whisper, a haunting in Corsegold. The previous post about the Airbnb, I wanted to share my short story too. It's not scary like the previous story, but it made me thought of what I had experienced. This happened during COVID of 2020 in Corsegold, CA. This was the time everyone was getting free money from ADD LOL. Me and my ex, who at that time was my boyfriend, and his family decided to rent an Airbnb. We wanted a location near Bass Lake. There was 3 couples, including us, and a toddler. The house we picked looked nice from the photos, and the outdoor scenery was really nice. There was a long swing outdoor, and that was what made us pick the spot. When we finally arrived, it was already dark. Right when we stepped into the first living room, we were all saying, "It felt so dark in here. It was not like the photos." I believe that living room was only built in. The window from the restroom goes into that living room. Lo, that should have already been the first red flag. We three ladies decided to start picking out which room we were going to sleep in. The master bedroom. We named that the grudge room. The closets were exactly like Japan's sliding closets. Even the master bathroom had those closets in there too. The couple with the toddler slept in that room. Now the second long room, there was this weird-looking closet that had a hole. Right when I saw that closet, the radars in my head went off. I automatically said no to that room. The second couple slept in that room, and we picked the room with no windows. We were just talking how the house feels so airy, but made the best out of it. We began our drinking, and I was telling everyone about my past experiences. I believe because my spirit is weak. I'm always the one getting target in every house I move to or sleep at. So I was telling them, this house already feel a chilly vibe, and I think we all knew it too. I also said I needed to drown myself with alcohol tonight to knock myself out. If I don't, I know something is going to happen. Surely enough, I was the first to knock out. My worries went away and I went to sleep in the room, but kept the hallway light and light in the bedroom on. I woke up in the middle of the night, and my boyfriend was fast asleep. At this point, I was half awake and half asleep. I was turned toward my boyfriend and had my back out. In the vision, I can already see myself and how my surrounding was. Since there was no windows, it was pitched black. Suddenly, I heard footsteps coming closer and closer. It started from the door and worked its way towards me. That's when I heard her. She whispered to my ears, "Kathy." She started talking gibberish to me, and by now, I was fighting to wake up. I finally woke up, but all night, we heard the toddler crying. Nothing else happened after that, but when we talked about it, the couple with the toddler did say their son wouldn't sleep with the lights off. They had to keep the lights on at night. This is why I hate renting at Airbnbs. Too many scary stories. Haha. Hope you all enjoyed it. Story 6. The Tongue Under the Door. Back in Laos, there lived a family who was not productive at all. The kids were disrespectful, and the parents were lazy. They never tend to their farm and smoked opium all day. The parents, the kids, a son and daughter, were rude to their parents and always would go out and never come home. One day, the father passed away. The mother was sad, but the kids really didn't care. They gave him a proper burial and went back to their ways. A few years had passed, and the mother became sick. She eventually gave up on life. The son and daughter were poor and could not give her a proper burial, nor a shaman ritual. So they just dressed her up in her white skirt, black shirt, red and green sash, and left her dead corpse laying on the wooden bed they had at the farm. The kids came home after leaving her body and was looking for food to eat. Because they are lazy and never did much, there was nothing to eat. Nighttime came around and they went to bed. During the night, they heard scratching from the door. Scared, the sister asked the brother to go check it out, but he was afraid too. The scratching kept on going until 1 in the morning. The siblings could not sleep at all that night. They did not know what was scratching at the door. Growing tired of the noise, the brother finally got up and lit a candle. They sat upon their bed and stared at the door. From the door, they heard a voice calling out, I'm home. Let me in. I'm hungry." Right away, they knew who it was. Theirmom. They were so terrified they cuddled and cried their eyes out. Then again, the scratching continued. Again, the voice kept saying, "I'm home. Let me in. I'm hungry." Imagine saying that in Hmong. Kav los savos. Kib kov chuja. Kav chai. Che plablissos. Sorry for my bad home grammar. The children did not respond, so the dead mother became desperate. She stuck her hand under the door. Her hands were all shriveled up, and her nails were black. Her fingers were stuck together, one finger on top of the other. She started to dig the sand under the door, trying to get in, while she kept saying, in Hmong, "I wonder if anybody is home. Let me go inside and make some food. I am so hungry." Then the scratching stopped. Next thing, she started running around the house, laughing and screaming, "Let me in. Let me in. Latmein." The kids were frozen in fear. Then it got quiet, not a noise from the outside. All of a sudden, the voice was right next to the wall outside of their bed. IKNOWYUAREHERE. The daughter let out a shriek, then it was all quiet again. A few minutes later, there was scratching at the door again. "I will eat you kids up when I get inside." Dig, 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 all through the night. She tried to dig her way in. Even with her attempt at digging underneath the door, the dead mother could not get in. Desperately, she started to lick the door. The kids were so terrified as they looked upon the door. Then, all of a sudden, they saw a long, red, slimy tongue come under the doorway. Tongue was so long it licked the door and started to extend to the pots and pans searching for food. All the while, her hand was digging the earth. So hungry as the dead mother's tongue licked at the pots and pans searching for food. "Why won't you let me in? Open the door. Cook me some food." The kids were so scared, they just sat frozen in fear. The mother went all through the night licking, scratching, and looking for food. Morning finally arrived, and the mother decided to leave. At the sign of her leaving, the kids waited for a few hours before they ran their butts out of the house to a neighbor's house. They told the neighbors what had happened and went back to the farm to give their mom a proper burial. Upon arriving at the farm, they noticed that the mother's body was gone. To this day, they haven't gotten a clue of what had happened to the body. The kids moved away to another village and was never heard from again. Story 7. Awakening the Forgotten, a haunting tale from the mountains of Laos. My mom told me this story after she heard it from the conference calls, the new or not so new thing for the parents. This happened in Laos. I'm not sure when, but it seemed like it wasn't that long ago. I tried to put in as much detail as I can and got this. Notes for those who don't know. In Laos, that time, not sure about now, but according to my dad, there are different small villages in the mountains. In between each village, Hmong people buried the dead. With that, the landscape will be in a pattern of village, graves with forest, village, graves, etc. You get the pattern. Anyway, here's to the story. It was an early morning with a group of village boys, about 7 to 10 of them. The oldest was 25 and the youngest was around 13. The boys set out to the forest to hunt. After miles of walking, tired, they decided to rest at a grave site. The boys were just sitting around and having small conversations. One of them took a bamboo stick, cracked it in half, and decided to have fun. He stood in front of a grave and tossed the bamboo halves on the ground, acting like he was a shaman, and quoted, "Wake up, wake up." He stated that if the two sides turned a certain side, the corpse is going to wake up. If not, it won't. However, each time he tossed it, it turned to the requested sides. The rest of the boys laughed and teased that the corpse wouldn't wake up, or so they thought. When they were done resting, they headed out to hunt. While the other boys left with their guns and arrows, the youngest was to stay and built a tent or a camping site. He waited for the rest for when they come back with their praise. The younger began gathering woods for the place and worked on it. After a while, he accidentally spotted what seemed like red and green cloth materials, hovering lightly with the breeze behind a tree trunk. He took another look, a better look this time, and found that a person was hiding behind the tree. Tattered clothes, rotten flesh clinging on her bones, and gray hair swayed from the visible skull. Fear struck him, as the old lady must be from the grave earlier. She came to them for real. Without hesitation, he aimed 5 gunshots into the air, hoping for the others to hear. When they finally arrived to his rescue, they asked him what was going on. He remained silent, debating whether to tell them or not. He didn't mention anything about the lady. The day was going by each minute as he eyed her. The lady stood clinging onto the tree trunk intensely, watching, intensely studying him. The boy cuddled himself around the small fire in the daylight, watching her, watching him. He then decided to call to his oldest uncle, the 25-year-old. The boy told the elder about the cause of the 5 gunshots earlier. Shockingly, the uncle asked why he didn't say anything earlier. The boy replied that if he tells he was afraid they all might just dashed away, leaving him behind, so it was better if he didn't say anything. He wasn't a stupid boy. He was, in fact, a very smart one. The uncle took in his view and decided not to disclose it as well. He asked the boy to help him collect as much woods as they can to live through the night. They really had no idea what the intentions of the zombies were. The two hurriedly off to their mission, as the clueless others just laughed at them about their enthusiasm of bringing woods to the campfire. Night arrived and the other boys were off the bed, resting their energy. The two sat in front of the campfire, just waiting and watching the corpse move closer to their camping site. They threw more and more woods to make a huge fire, so that she won't come near. They watch her hopped onto each of the other boys as they lie on their backs. With fire on the each end of their sticks, they leaned and flashed it toward her as she got closer. She moved away, fearing the fire, and shifted back, got up and sat on each of the sleeping boys, jumping, leaping, and hopping on their stomach as she straddled them. All night long, the two tried and tried to keep her away. At last, they threw the fires at her. The zombie ran away weakly into the darkness, screaming. Morning comes, and the boys prepared to go home. They had to go past the graveyard in order to get to their village, which they did. When they arrived to where they were yesterday, that particular grave, the soil was folded into the ground, and there was smoke rising from it. They took a look and walked past it. A mischievous one threw a stick of fire into the grave, leaving that to a mad result. A couple of days later, all the boys got really sick, and their families had to call a shaman to do a ritual. The shaman came to help. He made his way to the spiritual world and met the old lady. She told him that she took their souls with her. She thought there was an urgent need of her, so she came and had left her spot as she was still lined up to get ready for reincarnation. Now that she left, her spot was taken, so she was using them to help her move faster. The shaman came back and made stick dolls, voodoo, and burned them. Enough for each boy to help them back to reality and good health. The dolls took their places, and they all got well after a while. Some details are probably off since it's been a while, but I hope you guys enjoy this story. My sister wrote a poem about it, and the title was from her too. So I just kind of took some parts of her writings and added to this piece, since she wrote it right after the story was told. Of course, I got permission from her to take it lol. Story 8. The Pact with the Bear. A haunting legacy of a Hmong family's promise. The story has been passed down from generation to generation and was told to me from my dad, who was told by his dad, and so forth. It was said that the reason why our noob or bloodline, when we die, become a deus or bears is because of this story. Let me tell you why. Long ago in our old country, there was a Hmong family who were very, very or greedy. They were so greedy that they never liked guests or families to visit them because they didn't want to spend money to entertain/feed or host anything for them. Keep in mind back then, people were poor, and so I don't really blame them. Because of their greediness, selfishness, or maybe it was even their embarrassment that they were too poor to afford guests, they moved deep into the forest. It was a 2-hour walk through mountains and dense jungle to visit them, so no one would visit them. However, the family was content, and they lived peacefully for a long time. They were a pretty much self-sustainable family unit that relied on the lands for all their needs. During this time of solitude, they were fortunate to have 4 children, a vegetable garden, and even a little farm. The family was really close, and because the hut they lived in was small, they were very dependent upon one another. The hut was shaped like a rectangle where it divided into 3 separate rooms. The doorway was in the middle room, which was the kitchen, and the 2 bedrooms were on opposite sides on both ends, with the 2 bamboo walls separating them from the kitchen. It was this closeness that brought them together. Until one day, the father fell ill from malaria. The kids and mother did not know what to do. There were no doctors close to them. They relied heavily on the natural herbs around the forest, and whatever they could find only. It wasn't until the 3rd day that the father was still having a fever that he said to his family, Yog tias kav tuag, kav zav, kam neje muab kav, faus hav kuv, lub tev nom. Yo tias kavrov, kablos, love sees, tex haben shai, kov yuav, koj neje muz rog ko. If I come back, don't be scared. I will take you with me. The mother and the kids wept as they saw him take his last breath and passed away. They dug a hole in the middle of the hut, as he had asked, and buried him in there. The reason why they didn't call any relatives, nor did they seek any help, was because the oldest child was only 10 years old. The rest were still too young to help with anything. The wife knew that without her husband, she and her family would have to move back to the village and go back to her family. She and the kids packed what they had. When they were finished, it was already dark. She decided that they would leave early morning because it was a very long walk back to the village. So that night, they all slept together in the parents' room for the last time. Later on that night, the oldest son woke his mom up. Niam, koji poa solbantav, zuankaios slide tuxiv haze as, koji peblosantaum news. Kav huff, kaub, tau peb, pav, peb, fav fopt, stavnas. Mom, do you hear that? It sounds like I can hear Dad telling us to come to him. I hear some digging coming from the hole we buried Dad in. The mom listened carefully, and she also heard it too. She was terrified at the sound she heard next. It was a long moaning, almost like a deep, hurtful pain. It was definitely her husband's voice, and whatever he said before he died was becoming real now. She knew that whatever it was, even if it was her husband, she did not want it to harm her or her kids. So, she started to hide them in the little room. She carefully put her youngest son, who was almost 1 year old, into a calm Hmong bamboo basket with straps and covered it with a thin sheet. She then put their only daughter, who was 4 years old, underneath the bed. She woke up and asked her mom what was happening, but the mom quietly said that whatever you do, do not answer your father. She then told her 10-year-old son to take his 6-year-old brother out the window and to run to the village to tell their uncles to come help them. The oldest son woke up his younger brother and they both climbed out the window. The mother could hear her dead husband slowly dragging himself out and crawling to the other bedroom where he used to sleep. He could hear him pulling on the baskets and chairs. He kept saying Koje Niam, Nes Nyob Tug Lomos, Losn Talm Cove Oz, my wife. Where are you? Come to me. All of a sudden, the little girl said Tuksiv, Peb Niob Ntalm Koje Tuksajos. Dad, we are here in your bed. The mother was horrified and told her daughter to be quiet, but it was too late. She could hear her dead husband slowly shuffling towards their room and could only wait in horror underneath the bed as he made his way towards them. At first, she could not see anything, but as the sound of the dragging feet got closer, she could see by the candlelight. It was the shape of her husband. He was walking stiff and barely had any movement in his joints, as he had shuffled on both of his feet now. He said, Me nexhes, Koje Thiab Koji, Niam Niob Tu Lomos, Los Ntalm Kuvos, Kovenko. Oh, Najay, my daughter, where are you? And your mom? Come to me. I miss you. The daughter once again said, Kov Tuksiv, Kov Niam Thiab Kov Niab Hav Kob Tuksag Naz. My dad, mom, and me are under the bed. The mother then screamed in horror as she saw 2 gray hands reaching underneath the bed and grabbed the daughter by her legs. The little girl screamed in horror as the father pulled her out of bed and said, Tusnov Yog, Tuv, Tusmi Nuxhize. Ah, this one is my daughter. And he took her out of the room. The screaming stopped, and the mother knew that her husband had killed her. She quickly bolted out from under the bed, grabbed the son in the basket, and quickly tried to climb out the window. The basket holding her son was too big for the window, and it got stuck. She gasped in horror as her husband made his way back to the room and said to her Kojniam, Ula Kaz Koje Ti Yav Kiav Namko Vav Tam Da. Koje Tib Hez Tiaz Koje Yuav Mrog Kuvmos Thiabnez. My wife, how come you are running away? You said you were going with me too. The dead husband then grabbed the basket from her, and she fell forward out of the window. She had no choice but to leave her son. As much as she wanted to go back, she knew that she would die if he got a hold of her, and so reluctantly she chose to run for her life. As she ran down the trail, she could see that the husband had already gotten out the front door and was chasing her. Whatever movement issues he had earlier were gone now. He was now running after her, with both his hands sticking out in front of her, and a huge grin on his face. She quickly got off the trail and found a huge tree. She climbed up as fast as she could and listened carefully. Kojniam, Kojnyobkov Tuglomos. My wife, where are you? In a long, slow voice. She could hear him calling it over and over again. The wife cried as she thought about her daughter and her young son. She could only hope that her two older boys made it safely to the village to get help. As she was asking and praying to the spirits of her ancestors for help, she didn't notice, but a huge black bear was in the tree with her as well. It was staring right at her when she opened her eyes. She let out a loud yell, and her husband heard it. He came running towards the tree now, and was directly underneath her. Silos. Kov Yuav Koji Fiab Kov Menu. Amar. Want to take you and the kids away. Right then, the bear said to her, Awali Kaskoje Niob Tavkuv Shaw Nov Kiev Mus. How come you are at my place? Go away. Tav Koja Pabkavos Tasyam Deus. Kav Tas Taksiv Tuaglam Tiam Sisnubi. Sov Loswadab Loje Muab Kuv Viab Ko Kuv Fob Menuam Tua. Dov Koje Pabkavos. Please help me, bear. My husband is dead, but he has come back to kill me and my kids. Please help me. The bear was actually a very old creature that was hunted by the Hmong for food and medicinal purposes. It was always in hiding and scared of humans because of what they did to it and its family. This time, it was different. It saw this as an opportunity to help the same creature that hunted it down, and so it made the woman promise him something in return for helping. Yogtias Kav Pub Koji, Tuxi Jehanav Mus, Koji Yuav Tum, Sistex Hubtua Kuv, Lom, Thiabtes, Tassantam Las, Koje Yuav Tutsum Fije, Pugtug Sayaje Pub Brau Kuvimtias Kov Pab Koj, Texije Hunno Masis, Koje Thiab Koje Tz Nig Yuav Los Yakov Tsev Nig. If I do help you, you must not kill me anymore, and you have to sacrifice an animal to me. From this day on, you and your family will also be my family. The lady agreed, and the bear told her to give him her jacket she was wearing. The bear put it on and climbed down. As it got to the ground, the husband immediately came after the bear. It circled around it and could not figure out why his wife was so big and hairy, but it was wearing his wife's jacket. Kojniam Ualai Kaskoje Texov Lom? Koje Sizulai Kublom. Wife, how come you look so strange? You don't look the same. As it came closer to the bear, it realized it wasn't his wife, but a bear, and they immediately fought. The husband made an unearthly sound as it tried to grab the bear's neck and twisted it. The bear was too big, and the bear broke free. With one swipe of its claw, it knocked the husband's head right off. It then started eating the husband's body until there was nothing left. A shot then rang out from a distance. The boys had reached the village and went to their uncle's house. The uncles and family formed a rescue party and came as fast as they could. They saw a huge bear at the base of a tree and fired a shot at it. The bear then looked up at the woman and said, Kov Pab Koji Lom, Enko Enstov Koji Kog Luz Lom Nob. I helped you. Remember your promise? And it ran off. The wife climbed down and sobbed hysterically when she saw that her two boys were still alive. As they got to the hut, they could see that her daughter was already dead. They found the basket, and inside was the little son still sleeping. The husband did not even realize that his son was in there. The mother hugged her son, and the uncles took the daughter's body for a proper burial in the village. They also burned down the hut and warned everyone who was there to never go to that place ever again. The mother told her relatives of the story, and her uncles immediately went and sacrificed a pig for the bear. They thanked the bear for its generosity and graciousness. The family from then on never went to hunt for bears. It wasn't until 50 years later, when the mother was lying on her deathbed, that she told her eldest son about her other promise to the bear. She told him everything about what would happen, and for him to not be afraid when the bear came for them. As soon as she finished telling him the story, he could hear a loud roar coming from the forest. It was ferocious and powerful. His mother smiled at him and then passed away. Story 9. Whispers in the Shadows, the haunting secret of Uncle Ning. As I went on my own, I happened to see 2 squirrels. As I was about to shoot, I heard Tub Fiji cry out for help. I quickly ran back to where his voice was coming from. As I got closer to him, I saw him on the ground holding onto his left leg. I asked him what happened. He told me he tried climbing the tree and lost his balance. I scolded him for not being careful. I got him on my back and carried him. As I carried him, I noticed a smell that I will always remember. It was the smell of XM pumped swab parrot soap, the green soap. Wondering to myself why I'm smelling this on my nephew, because I remember he doesn't like the smell of the soap bar because it's too feminine to him. I asked him how come he smelled like Zab Npum non-swab. He told me that he always used it and that it was always his favorite. I've known my nephew long enough to know he hates the smell. I was going to ask him again, and then came a voice that brought chills to my body. Neeb coach, so cob lom loss. Ning, you don't remember. My eyes widened. It was her favorite. I cried out and tried to break loose from her. When I finally broke off from her, I quickly got my hunting gun ready and shot at her. She angrily cried out to me. I quickly turned and ran for my life. End of Uncle Ning POV. As I followed behind my Uncle Ning, I noticed that he walked weirdly. He kept dragging his left leg while walking. I started to sense something wasn't right. Just as I was thinking to myself, I bumped into my uncle. He was slowly turning his head to the side and hysterically started to laugh or cry in such a chilling way. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was her. I tried to scream and run, but I couldn't do either.
I felt tears streaming down my cheeks.
I begged her not to hurt me and told her I was sorry, just as I thought it would be the end of me. I heard gunshots from a few feet away from me. My body unfroze. I ran in the direction of the gunshots. There was my uncle, also running from something as well. I screamed for my Uncle Ning. He looked in my direction and knew that I encountered something as well. As we ran, we could hear her angry cries calling for us both. We were running non-stop until we realized we were lost deep in the jungle. We stopped to catch our breaths. I looked at my uncle and asked him Texavan Posh Yog Koji Pom Li Cov Pom Thiab. Uncle, you saw what I saw too, right? He nodded. The sun was soon to set, so we decided to set a place for the night. We sat by the fireplace eating beef, jerky, and sticky rice that my uncle packed from home. My uncle broke the silence and said me Tub Fiji Enko Quab Nustuvko Flois Rau Koljio Ga Ho Go Tub Feng. Remember what I said to you? I nodded knowingly. As we both stared at the fire, someone was calling out to us Nibas Neje Mustubu Lamos. Kav Tuaje Nayav Neje Lomas. Ming, where are you guys? I'm here to look for you both. It was VM2 calling out for us. Overjoyed, I was about to answer. My uncle covered my mouth and said, Tub sisyog vem tu. Kojim lu lub swab zoo zoo. Tas ubiogi blub swab pojeniam. Son, it's not them two. Listen to the voice closely. The one calling out to us is a woman's voice. I listened closely, and it was a woman's voice. The voice was getting closer and closer to us. My uncle ushered us to climb up a tree. Within a few minutes, everything went completely silent. As I looked below me, I could see her slowly walking around, dragging her left leg and sniffing the air. She looked up, giggling at us, like a little kid who has received candy. She tried to climb her way up the tree. My uncle started praying to our ancestors for our protection. The Pojidab yelled out NEB, KOJXVTIASKYUVYUNEBOBLAJLOS. Ning, you think I won't be able to find the both of you? I looked at my uncle, trembling in fear. My uncle yelled out and pointed his gun right at her. Kojeg Zavtias Kuv Tua, Tus Tuaj Kojeg Jog Ob Loss. You think I won't be able to kill you a second time? With his loaded gun, he shoots at her. She cried, reaching out her hand to me. Tub Fije Pab Covos Pab Cov O's. Tub Feng, please help me. Please help me. I started getting flashbacks from that very day. I happened to be getting logs that day when I caught my uncle. I can still remember the way she called out for me to help her. I was young and scared at the time. I was trying to run, but he got a hold of me and threatened to kill me if I tried to run. He brought me back to where she lay on the ground, completely beaten. He made me watch him kill her that day. Each time he stabs her, she will cry for my help. He eventually slashed her face so she wouldn't be recognizable. All I could do was cover my ears. After my uncle was done, he pointed his knife at me and said, Yog Koji Tasim Kia Tau Lij Tog Fiab Kuv Uav Tua Koji Yam Nankaus Li Kov Tu News. If you dare tell anyone, I will kill you exactly how I kill her. From that day on, I promise to never tell. As I came back to my senses, I heard a loud screech. The Posh Dab jumped away to some bushes. At that moment, my uncle told me he'd distract her while I make a run for it. I held on to my uncle, begging him not to do this. He shed a few tears and said, Me tub tube yog vim cov xu. Son, it's all because of me. He jumped down and screamed out for her to chase him. As they ran away, I jumped down and grabbed both of our bags and weapons and chased after them. I ran as fast as I could and loaded my gun. In the distance, I can see the Po J Dab attacking my uncle. I aimed my gun right at her bang. She ran away in another direction. I quickly ran up to my uncle and held him up. We both ran and ran our way out of the jungle. I don't remember ever stopping. Slowly opening my eyes, I heard a voice that brought warmth and safety to me. It was my mother's voice calling out to me, Me tub Fije, Koj solve lom loss. Niam tus me nexo ort sis texhaben shios mog. Niam thiab taxivuav. Tis pub com waje, dab tau rao, cov tosmi tubos. Sis texhab nunche lommog. Hey, tub thing, you're awake. My dear son, don't be scared. Mom and Dad will not allow anything to harm you. Don't be scared. I can hear my mom softly cry while smoothing my hair. I cried to both of my parents, telling them my uncle and I saw a poge dab. I hugged both of my parents, finally safe within their arms. My parents told me that Uncle Neng and I had been missing for 6 days. The 4 village men returned to the village on the 3rd day to inform our families that both of us had gone missing. At first, our family didn't believe them. They thought that the 4 men must have killed us both. So my father and grandpa went to an old village man, to Sahib Yai. The elder man said my Uncle Neng and I were indeed still alive, but someone was hiding us. So our family brought joss papers and incense to pray that both of us are to be brought back safely. The night that we ran home, the village men were about to head out again for search. As they were heading out, they could hear the village dogs barking and our screams calling for help. After that, we both collapsed and we were unconscious. My parents and the elders asked us what happened during our disappearance. I told them we were being chased by my uncle's dead girlfriend. My uncle hesitantly told them that he was the one who killed her. He explained that she kept trying to cause trouble between him and his wife. When he chose to not marry his ex-girlfriend, she will constantly block his way or tell lies to his wife. Eventually, he decided to lie to his ex-girlfriend to meet up at their old spot. He tried to reason with her at first, but it didn't work out. Out of anger, he killed her. The elders asked why I was involved in this problem. My uncle told them that I caught him in his act. He threatened to kill me if I ever told a soul. The elders were angry, but there wasn't much they could do anymore. Everyone in the whole village found out. My uncle was ashamed of himself. A few days later, my uncle went missing. We all went looking for him and found him at the same spot when we found his dead girlfriend. He died exactly just like her. A couple of nights after my uncle's funeral, I had a dream of his dead girlfriend who came along with my uncle. She didn't look scary. She looked normal. She told me that she never meant to scare me. All she wanted was for me to tell the truth and that she would not find fault in me. That was the last time I ever saw her and my Uncle Neng. Story 10. The Haunting Hunt. Secrets Buried in the Jungle. This story was told to me by my father. The story will be told in first-person narration. VM is village man. My Uncle Neng invited me and 4 other village men to go hunting. We all met up at my uncle's house early in the morning and headed out. When we finally arrived at our destination, we set our things down and made a hut and fireplace. I stayed behind to cook rice while the others went out to hunt. Slowly, everyone was returning with small animals. As dinner was being prepared, the middle-aged men reminisced about the old times when they were young as we chatted away. BM1, who was a close friend of my uncle, asked if my uncle still remembered his dead girlfriend. We all sat in silence. My uncle whispered that he indeed remembers. We all knew the story of my uncle's dead girlfriend. She died 6 years ago. She was found 5 days after her disappearance. Her family wasn't able to give her a proper burial. I can still remember how she was killed. She was stabbed multiple times. Her face was slashed beyond recognition, and she had a broken left leg. After a moment of silence, we all slowly got up to clean and got ready for bed. As we prepared for the night, I felt as if we were being watched. I tried to shake things off, thinking I was just paranoid. I slowly drifted off to sleep. I don't know how late it was when I heard mumbling. I opened my eyes to check, and the fire was already out. I tried listening to see which way the mumbling was coming from. Trying to adjust to the darkness, I saw a dark figure about a foot away from our hut. I looked over to the others and counted if we were all there. There were only 5 of us in our spots. The one missing was my uncle. He wasn't at his spot. I slowly got up and quietly called out his name since we were in the jungle. I quietly called out to my uncle, Texaventam Nib Koji So Z's Laos? Uncle Ning, are you peeing? No answer. I kept calling out to him as I got up to him. His eyes were closed, and he kept murmuring, Sis tex hob koj kov mus. Sis tex hob koj kuv muse. Don't take me. Don't take me. I shook my uncle to wake him up. My uncle was awoken by my voice. He looked at me and back in the direction he was facing earlier. He pointed and asked, in his terrified voice, Tubfeej, Koje pause pumdab, seesaw pev. Tu Feng, do you see something standing over there?
My whole body froze as he questioned me.
I slowly drew my eyes to where he was pointing. I looked back at my uncle and told him there was nothing there, and he was probably dreaming. He slowly looked back, and indeed, no one was there. Before we walked back, Uncle Neng stopped me and told me not to tell the others because we were still in the jungle. As we got to our spot, we both squeezed in between the guys to sleep in the middle. Morning came, and we woke up to prepare for the day. Both I and Uncle Neng went together while the others went on their own. As we both headed to our hunting spot, I kept hearing something behind me. It sounded like something was being dragged. I quickly walked up to my uncle and whispered, Tuxi Vandiksam Nib, Koje Poas, Navlai Kov, Nyob Thiab, Zuli League Tubi Raz Dubby Cob. Uncle Neng, do you hear that? Sounds like someone is following us. My uncle told me he didn't hear anything. It was probably just a small animal. I shrugged it off, thinking it was just my mind playing tricks. Finally, we arrived at our hunting spot. We decided to separate for a while. I went to the left, and my uncle went towards the right. As I got to my spot, I spotted my prey. Just as I was about to shoot, I felt a tap on my shoulder. Startled, I turned my head, and it was my uncle. Taxiv taxom koje exa. Koje twagpos tau dabt si. Uncle, it's you. Have you got anything yet? He grabbed onto my wrist and dragged me along with him. I asked him where we were going. Taxiv ton koji you of koji kov muskov tog? Uncle, where are you taking me? He turned his head with a hoarse voice. He said, Kov Twaje. Tor, Ib, Tas, Ta, Teb. I shot a wild boar. Excitingly, I followed him along. Thank you for always supporting the channel and welcoming its videos. Wishing you good health, and remember to subscribe to the channel to achieve 1,000 subscriptions.